These new game showcases really got that hype train rolling on these new upcoming titles.
The pain train is coming!
That Starfield hype train is looking pretty good though. But I'm seeing a lot of mixed reviews so far, no matter where I look. Most of the reasons people are given are these weird technical reasons. They just seem kind of dumb. It feels like they don't understand what's being shown right now is just a work in progress. So when I see these guys all disappointed by buggy sprites or NPCs with their heads on backwards or something, I just think to myself, you're paying attention to the wrong stuff. You have to learn to separate the propaganda from the information that actually matters here.
Something you could never do, Bobby, with all your dumb emotion.
These game showcases are not like movie previews. A movie preview comes from the finished movie. These clips of gameplay don't come from the finished game. They come from a mostly broken, likely in alpha or beta phase game that is pieced together just enough to show you what it's capable of. The stuff being promised to you by Todd Howard and others on stage is very exaggerated to give the most hype possible. Never trust what they say on stage. Any presenter up there. You have to equate all of it to an advertisement in your head.
Like slamming canned salmon, you kooky broad!
And if you want to make a prediction on how good a game's going to be, you have to look at the facts they aren't showing you. The most important factor that I never hear people talk about is the chemistry of the development teams and how they've solved problems in projects before. There's a few little documentaries you can watch and stuff, but they only show you so much. But they do give you a good insight on how long each developer has been there and what projects they've worked on in the past, and you get to hear from the other ones that have worked on the same projects and how they talk about the other teams, and you get quite a bit of information that way. And what I found out kind of surprised me, and it gave me a lot of faith in Starfield. Every single project lead I could find at Bethesda that is working on the Starfield project has been there for more than 10 years.
Goddamn!
So all of the main leadership in the audio departments, in the dungeon design departments, and even the art and production departments all have people that have been there for more than 10 years working on Starfield. A few of them have been there since before Morrowind, which is 20 years plus.
Oh my god!
I looked up as much of the development leadership as I could find, and here's some of them. Ashley Chang has been with Bethesda since Morrowind, which is a 20-year plus veteran. I think he's at 22 years now, and he's the studio director and part of the Starfield staff overlooking the project. Next is Matt Carafino. He was the lead artist on Morrowind way back in the day, so there's another 20-plus year veteran, and he's the lead artist on Starfield today. Angela Browder is a studio director for Starfield and worked her way up from QA on Oblivion all the way to her position now as studio director for Starfield. Emil Pagliarulo has been around since the Oblivion days. He is the design director on Starfield and was a quest designer and design director on Oblivion as well. Mark Lampert is the audio director on Starfield and was the audio director all the way back on Oblivion as well. And the last one I could find information on was Istvan Peli. He was the lead dungeon design on Oblivion and is now the lead artist on Starfield. And this isn't even all the people on the teams. This is just the team leads that I could find evidence of. And when you've worked on teams that long with the same people, you know each other's skill sets so well, and you have basically playbooks for everything that could possibly go wrong.
And that's sort of another advantage that we have, in the industry, is that we have all these games and experiences, and I call them playbooks. Like, we have the Skyrim playbook. How do we solve this problem in Skyrim? How do we solve this problem in Fallout 4? Like, we need a new game mechanic. Okay, great. We have 15 years worth. Pick one. Like, which one do you want to try? Like,
a team's chemistry and experience can take them a long way, almost all the way. But it's not everything. It only takes a few bad decisions to ruin an entire game, or it just could be ruined before you even start, just like Bethesda did when they created Fallout 76. They went completely off the chain with this one.
It's off the chain, baby!
Developing an MMO is a completely different beast than designing a single-player open-world game like Bethesda's known for. A perfect analogy of the story of Bethesda and the creation of Fallout 76 would be the story of Michael Jordan leaving the NBA to play baseball.
It's time for me to move away from the game of basketball.
They both teach a very valuable lesson, and that lesson is stick to what you're good at. The story is a perfect analogy because of how different MMOs are from single-player games, at least in terms of development and support. You need an entirely different set of people and tools to create an MMO versus a single-player game.
You have folks who have been making single-player quests here for so long. How many people read a note at once, or who gets this bit of the story, and is this stored on the client or the server? Those are things we've never had to think about before.
Just like Emil mentions here, there's a whole set of new ideas that you have to keep in mind, and a whole new set of skills you have to learn. An MMO must be designed completely differently from the ground up. Just as an athlete for one sport would be designed differently with different abilities and muscle memory than an athlete in a different sport. Even with the highest level of athletic ability, talent in one sport doesn't always transfer to another. Just in case you don't know the Michael Jordan baseball story, here is the quickest version of all time. In the 90s, Michael Jordan was the best basketball player in the world. And he's winning championships every year. His dad is suddenly murdered, and then he decides he wants to play baseball instead of basketball. So he quits the NBA and tries out for Major League Baseball. He ends up not being good enough to play professional baseball, so he goes back to the NBA and wins 3 championships in a row. The moral of the story here is that the two sports are so different from each other that even arguably the best basketball player of all time can't even compete with Major League Baseball players. Bethesda making a single-player open-world game like their bread and butter is just like Michael Jordan playing basketball. You could argue that Bethesda is the best in the world at making single-player open-world games. I'm not saying that they are 100% are, but I'm saying it could be argued. They've proven several times that they can make single-player open-world games at the highest level with games like Skyrim, Oblivion, and Fallout 4. To me, those are kind of attuned to Michael Jordan's NBA championships. Both of them prove that they do their work at the highest level. But when Bethesda decided to make Fallout 76, it was Michael Jordan signing up for baseball all over again. Bethesda was straight up out of their element.
You're out of your element!
In creating a massively multiplayer online experience. Their lack of experience truly showed, even though they had some experienced people on their team. But they made a few decisions that likely made it almost impossible for them to pull this off. For example, instead of creating a new Fallout from the ground up to make massively multiplayer and online, they took the single-player base game for Fallout 4 and tried to basically mod it and change it enough that it would work as an online, massively multiplayer game.
76 is the multiplayer design from Fallout 4.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
No one said that?
No.
It is.
This is almost as ugly as watching Michael Jordan try to hit a baseball.
Strike 3. Yep, they got him.
Even though they have the right people on the staff to help them, just like Michael Jordan had batting coaches to help him, knowing what to do and actually pulling it off with consistency is a completely different story. I've heard multiple professional athletes say that hitting a baseball thrown by a major league pitcher is the hardest thing to do in all of professional sports.
It's unbelievable. It takes guys 15 years to learn how to hit a baseball, and this guy thinks he can just walk on and do it.
And I would argue that making a successful, addictive, and socially engaging MMO might be the hardest thing to do in all of professional game design. The moral I hope everybody can take away from this story is that Bethesda trying to make Fallout 76 was basically an experiment. It was a one-off thing. It's not what they normally do, it's not who they are, and it's not what they're best at. So don't judge their future single-player open-world titles by comparing them to Fallout 76, because the difference between an MMO and a single-player title is night and day, and that's just not Bethesda. Just because I think Starfield will eventually be a masterpiece, I don't think it will release that way. With all the complexity that goes into creating games today, and all the different platforms they run on, we're just gonna have problems with games on release, and there's almost nothing we can do about it. So if you don't like your game not working right away, don't pre-order it. Don't buy it on release day. Just wait a couple weeks, watch some reviews, and look for a time when the patch comes out that fixes the stuff. If I could choose any game studio to make Starfield, I would pick Bethesda #1 out of any other game studio, simply because of their experience in this genre. So I think it's okay to be excited about this game. It's gonna be good, I can almost promise that. And if you're like me and you love spaceflight sci-fi crap, it might even turn out to be a masterpiece.
A masterpiece, a masterpiece.
Alright, that's it. I'm out. Peace.